Hi and welcome to the channel. So today I'm making a horseshoe flower planter. So this is a really easy project to do. Just use this strip wood, some plywood for the backing and some screws. I'm using an electric miter saw because there are quite a few cuts to do, but you can make this using just basic hand tools, and you'll also need a cordless drill. So the materials, as I said, I've just got some strip wood, an old piece of plywood, so this is about 9mm ply, just to do the backing. This is actually where the idea came from. I just wondered what I could do with this piece of ply. I hate wasting materials. Also going to need some screws or nails depending on how you want to put this together, and a cordless drill with a small drill bit. So the strip wood I'm using is 38mm by 20 or 19mm. Doesn't really matter on what size you use as long as it's a very similar profile to that. First of all, I'm going to cut 41 pieces at 15 centimeters long. So we now want two at 35 centimeters. And the final two pieces, one is at 24 centimeters and the other one is at 30 centimeters. So these are slightly different dimension wood to the ones I've been using. I'm just using up scrap pieces for this particular project, so they're the only two pieces that are different. I will be putting a full cut list at the end of the video, so if you watch till the end you'll know exactly how much wood I've used. Never made one of these before, so I'm not exactly sure at the moment. So the next thing to do is to cut the backing plate, so hopefully you can see this. So the backing plate is 44 centimeters across by 32.5 centimeters high. So when you've cut that rectangle out, the next thing to do is to measure down from the top 9.5 centimeters and then draw a 45-degree line and cut that, and then exactly the same thing on the other side, 9.5 centimeters, 45 degree, and then cut that across. And what you should end up with at the bottom is 19 centimeters across. So we also need one final piece, 31 centimeters long. Right, I hope I can explain this next bit clearly. So our backing plate we need to find the center of that backing plate, mark a center line down it, and then as we build this almost like a hanging basket, we'll have a cross member on the top to hold everything in place. So to ensure this is all square, we need to transfer that center line up, and then the cross member that goes at the top of the planter, this is the 31 centimeter piece of wood, and I've also marked a center line on there. So first thing I need to do is get a scrap piece of wood, ensure that it's away from the bottom because we're going to have strips of wood coming across here. And rather than nail or tack this in place, I'm just going to use a clamp. And this is only really for the initial bit. Once we've got it square, we can actually take this away. Okay. We can start to build the pieces now. So the first one to go in is the bottom one. Get that roughly central. Then the next piece, that corner and that corner touch. and we want to run all these pieces along the outside edge of our backing plate. So these are all those 15 centimetre pieces that we cut. So next thing we want to do is to place our 35 centimetre pieces. So we've got 2 of those, and angle them in. So basically how we build this is any corner is flush with the piece of wood below. So that corner is flush with the base plate, and then we angle it so that our centre line, we've got, if you're using this dimension wood, then it's 10 centimetres either side, so you should have a 20 centimetre gap. Once we've done that, the next thing to do is to build up the next layer. And we want to do that, so again these corners just come flush with the outside edge of that. And the reason for building this next layer before we actually fasten anything in place is so we can position our cross member up there accurately. So we put these in place. Like that, and then we take our cross member with our centre line, so we're actually looking to draw this back so the bottom corner comes flush with the outside edge of here, because when we fasten this in place we can trim this angle off, so we're left with at least 2 to 3 centimetres at the top. This is then going to be shaped to form this horseshoe. So what we can do now is, once we're happy with the placement of everything, it does need moving about a little bit, we're going to fasten this piece in place, take off some of this and start here, and then start to fasten these in place, and we build it up like that. The base plate actually gets fastened on last. So I've actually worked out now that if we measure down 10 centimetres we can actually fasten this first piece in place, as I said, flush with the outside, and that'll give us the enough room to fit the rest of these in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fasten this one in place first, 2 screws, and then we can fasten this cross member in. Right, so this cross member, these 2 pieces of wood need to be central to this centre line. Obviously the cross member has to be central as well, and the distance between this piece of wood we've just screwed in and the cross member has to be roughly the same, and it's the edge nearest this piece of wood, or the corner, that's flush with the outside edge, because we are going to trim that off afterwards. And as I said, this gives us a little bit of wood at the end to shape into sort of a rounded shape to replicate the horseshoe. Going to be placing 2 screws into this staggered, so that this then becomes the stabilizing piece. If we just put one piece of if we just put 1 screw in there, it will have a tendency to pivot. I'm using a drill bit to drill, but this is really cheap wood. If I attempt to screw or nail into this without doing a pilot hole first, the end of the wood will split. So now I've got this in place. I've made sure that these are back in place again. Some of them have moved. So we're just looking for the outside edge to all be flush, for these to be touching, and for it to look fairly square, and then we carefully position these over the top again. Again, this outside corner to be flush with the bottom edge. And then once I've got all these back in place, I'm then going to fasten them down just with one screw in each one, and that will make the whole structure quite stable. So once we've got to this stage with 2 layers of wood on, we can then turn this over and fasten the back plate in place. Like that. So all we need to do now is just to follow these layers around, so this layer will replicate not the next layer down but the layer below that. We just need to ensure that the outside corners are flush with the next one down, and what actually happens is it draws the pattern in. So we're going to be drilling and screwing those down, and then this will step back as well. So I'll carry on doing that and then I'll show you the final step. Right, so this is where we're up to. You see how we line in the outside corner with the face of the one below, brings the structure in. Now that tatty old piece of wood across there, I've found a better piece of wood in the shed, so I've swapped that out and used that. The next thing to do is just to lay the last 3 pieces on there. Which are these. So that one goes there. That one goes there, and then we've got one which sits in the middle like that. So I'm going to fasten those 3 in place, and then we'll move on to the next step. And so that's the planter nearly finished. I've just rounded off these corners and just shaved there to make it flush. Last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try and make a horseshoe out of the offcuts of the ply, just a horseshoe there. If it works fine, I'll just stain it probably a different colour. So I've just gone around the outside with a pad saw, just do a rough drawing, drilled some holes. I'm going to go around there hopefully with a pad saw, see if I can get that out, and then just file it all down. If it doesn't look any good, then I'll just obviously leave it plain. Next thing to do with this, I'm just going to stain it and probably varnish it as well. But that's it. Quite easy to do, and I'm sure if I did another one it would only take half the time.